Since the dawn of time, humanity has been captivated by the mysteries of the unseen. Among these mysteries lies a practice so dark and forbidden that it has been condemned across cultures and religions: black magic. But what is black magic, really? Is it merely superstition, or is it a sinister reality lurking in the shadows, affecting lives, breaking families, and spreading fear? Black magic, often referred to as sihr in Islamic terminology, is not a myth for those who believe in the unseen. It is a deliberate manipulation of supernatural forces, often through the invocation of jinns or other malevolent entities. While some view it as folklore, Islam categorically labels it as haram, a sinful act condemned by Allah. But why has this practice, despite its destructive nature, persisted throughout history? The Quran itself speaks of black magic in Surah al-Baqarah, where the story of Harut and Marut, two angels sent to test humanity, is recounted. They warned people about the consequences of dabbling in such practices, yet many ignored the warning and pursued it to sow discord. This raises questions: why do people willingly indulge in something that clearly invites the wrath of Allah? Is it power, vengeance, or sheer ignorance? In today's world, black magic is not just a relic of ancient times. It continues to thrive, hidden in plain sight. It may take different forms, rituals, talismans, or curses, but its aim remains the same: to harm others or gain control through forbidden means. As we unravel the origins and practices of black magic, one thing becomes clear: this is not a subject to be taken lightly. But how do we protect ourselves from something so insidious? What steps can we take to ensure that we remain safe in both faith and spirit? This journey into understanding black magic is not just about uncovering its secrets but also about finding the strength to resist its influence. Let us delve deeper into the dark corners of this forbidden craft and uncover the truth. The origins of black magic are steeped in mystery, fear, and forbidden knowledge. Where did it all begin? Was it born out of human curiosity, or did it stem from an outright rebellion against divine commands? To understand its roots, we must journey back to a time when humanity first encountered the allure of manipulating unseen forces. In Islamic tradition, the Quran provides an account of two angels, Harut and Marut, who descended to Babylon. These angels were sent by Allah as a test for humanity, teaching people about magic while warning them not to misuse it. Yet, some individuals, driven by greed and vengeance, ignored the warnings. They weaponized this knowledge to spread discord, separate families, and commit acts of unimaginable harm. The angels emphasized, "We are but a trial, so do not disbelieve." But for those blinded by temptation, the warning fell on deaf ears. Beyond Babylon, historical records reveal that black magic practices also existed in ancient civilizations such as Egypt and Mesopotamia. The Egyptians believed in spells and curses inscribed on papyrus, often invoking deities or spirits to achieve the goals. Mesopotamians feared the use of jinns and spirits, where black magic became a method to summon these entities for malicious purposes. But the spread of black magic wasn't limited to the Middle East. In ancient India, certain rituals tied to the Vedic tradition evolved into dark practices that called upon malevolent forces. Similarly, in Europe during the medieval era, witches were accused of using black magic to manipulate natural events and harm others, leading to the infamous witch hunts. It became clear that the desire for power and control knew no cultural or geographical bounds. Islam unequivocally condemns black magic because it relies on aligning oneself with dark, malevolent forces, entities that serve to mislead and destroy. Those who practice it often break their connection with Allah, exchanging divine blessings for fleeting worldly gains. They fall prey to the very forces they seek to control, often descending into lives of misery and regret. Why, then, do people still practice black magic? Could it be the allure of forbidden knowledge, a sense of power, or desperation to change one's fate? These questions remain relevant even today. As we uncover the roots of black magic, one thing becomes clear: its origin is tied to humanity's oldest weakness, the temptation to defy divine will for personal gain. Black magic is a practice that has evolved over centuries, taking many forms across cultures and societies. While the methods may differ, the intent remains the same: to manipulate, harm, or control through the invocation of dark forces. Understanding the types of black magic practices sheds light on the depth of its sinister nature and the lengths people go to achieve the goals. 1. Curses and hexes. One of the most common forms of black magic involves curses and hexes, used to bring misfortune, illness, or even death to the victim. These are often cast through spoken words, rituals, or symbolic objects. Items such as voodoo dolls or talismans may be used to represent the target, with pins, fire, or other symbolic acts performed to inflict harm. Curses are often rooted in vengeance or envy, showing the lengths people go to satisfy the negative emotions. 2. Binding spells. Binding spells aim to restrict a person's actions or will. These practices are commonly used to manipulate relationships, such as forcing someone to love or obey against the natural inclination. In some cultures, personal items like hair, photographs, or clothing are used in rituals to bind the target spiritually. This type of black magic undermines free will, causing emotional and mental distress. 3. Necromancy. The practice of communicating with the dead is another dark form of black magic. Necromancy is often used to gain forbidden knowledge, control spirits, or summon the deceased for malicious purposes. In Islamic teachings, such acts are strictly condemned as they involve the interference of jinn and malevolent entities. Necromancy blurs the line between the physical and spiritual realms, making it one of the most feared practices. 4. Spirit possession and summoning. Many black magic practitioners attempt to summon spirits or jinn to possess individuals or carry out the desires. These spirits are often malevolent, feeding on the practitioner's own soul in exchange for power. This form of magic is particularly dangerous as it not only harms the victim but also deeply corrupts the one performing it. 5. Sacrificial rituals. In some traditions, black magic involves sacrifices, animal or even human, to appease dark forces. These rituals are carried out to gain wealth, power, or revenge. Sacrifices are believed to empower the practitioner, binding them further to their malevolent source. 6. Energy draining. Energy-based black magic focuses on sapping the vitality or luck of a person. Such practices aim to leave the victim weak, depressed, or unable to achieve the goals. These rituals often involve channeling negative energy towards the victim through incantations or objects. Each type of black magic comes with dire consequences. For the practitioner, it is a direct rebellion against Allah's commands, leading to spiritual ruin. For the victim, it brings suffering that disrupts lives and relationships. These practices remind us of the importance of staying spiritually protected. As Islam teaches, reciting verses like Ayat al-Kursi and seeking refuge in Allah keeps one safe from such dark forces. Yet, the question remains, why do people persist in seeking power through darkness, knowing it only leads to destruction? Black magic is not just a sinister act against individuals but a direct rebellion against divine laws. The dangers and consequences it carries extend beyond physical harm, touching the realms of mental, emotional, and spiritual devastation. For both the practitioner and the victim, engaging with such dark forces leads to a cycle of destruction. 1. Harm to the victim. The immediate danger of black magic lies in the targeted harm it causes to the victim. Whether through curses, possession, or energy manipulation, black magic can lead to physical illnesses, unexplained accidents, and psychological breakdowns. Victims often experience paranoia, insomnia, or an unexplainable sense of dread, as if they are under constant attack. Relationships crumble under the strain, and careers falter as unseen forces disrupt their lives. For instance, someone cursed with a hex may suddenly find themselves surrounded by bad luck, failing in every endeavor without apparent reason. In more severe cases, individuals report experiencing spiritual disturbances such as hauntings or being tormented by jinn or spirits. 2. Moral and spiritual decline for the practitioner. For those who perform black magic, the consequences are even graver. By engaging with forbidden practices, they open themselves to the influence of malevolent entities. This spiritual corruption often leads to a loss of empathy, peace, and moral judgment. Many practitioners are consumed by greed or vengeance, spiraling further into darkness in their quest for power. The Quran explicitly warns against black magic, highlighting the story of Harut and Marut, two angels who were sent as a test. They taught magic to people only after clearly warning them, "We are but a trial, so do not disbelieve." Surah Al-Baqarah, 2, 102. Those who ignored the warning condemned themselves to spiritual ruin, severing their connection with Allah. 3. Collateral damage. Black magic rarely affects only the intended target. Families and communities often suffer collateral damage as the negativity spreads. A curse meant for one individual may inadvertently harm their loved ones, causing widespread misery. The emotional toll of such events can leave scars that last for generations. 4. Eternal consequences. The ultimate consequence of black magic lies in the hereafter. Practicing black magic is considered kufr, disbelief, in Islam, as it involves seeking help from forces other than Allah. The Quran explicitly states that those who engage in magic trade their faith for a fleeting benefit, condemning themselves to eternal loss. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, warned of the severity of such acts, stating that those who rely on magic cut themselves off from Allah's mercy. No worldly gain can compensate for the price of one's soul. 5. Escaping the cycle of fear. Even after the magic is performed, the fear of retribution haunts both the practitioner and the victim. Practitioners live with the constant threat of being harmed by the very entities they invoked. Victims, on the other hand, often feel trapped in a cycle of helplessness, fearing the unknown forces at play. The dangers of black magic remind us why Islam strictly forbids it. Both the practitioner and the victim suffer immense harm, with consequences that go beyond this world. Seeking protection through faith, reciting Quranic verses like Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas, and trusting in Allah's mercy are the only shields against such malevolence. The question remains, why gamble with one's soul when the price is so high? In the age of technology and rapid advancements, one might assume that belief in black magic would fade. However, the reality is quite the opposite. Black magic has not only persisted but also adapted to modern times, creating new challenges for individuals and communities. 1. The resurgence of black magic practices. Despite scientific progress, black magic continues to thrive in many parts of the world. Its allure lies in the promises of control, revenge, or power, often sought by those who feel desperate or powerless. Modern practitioners have adopted more discreet and tech-savvy methods to attract clients, using social media platforms, encrypted messaging apps, and even dark web forums to offer their services. These digital mediums have made black magic more accessible, allowing its practice to reach global proportions. 2. Exploitation of vulnerabilities. In the modern era, black magic has become a lucrative business. Fraudulent practitioners exploit the fears and insecurities of people, offering solutions to problems such as marital issues, business failures, or health concerns. Many unsuspecting individuals fall victim to these scams, losing not only their wealth but also their peace of mind. This exploitation feeds on the emotional vulnerability of people struggling with personal or professional hardships. 3. Psychological and cultural impact. The widespread belief in black magic has significant psychological implications. People who suspect they are victims of black magic often experience anxiety, paranoia, and depression. The stigma attached to black magic also creates cultural divides, with some communities ostracizing individuals accused of practicing it. In some cases, accusations of black magic have even led to violence, including mob attacks or social exclusion. 4. A spiritual vacuum. The persistence of black magic in the modern era reflects a spiritual void. As people drift away from faith and reliance on Allah, they turn to alternative sources of power. The Quran repeatedly warns against seeking help from the unseen for personal gain, emphasizing that reliance on Allah alone is the ultimate protection. Even in a technologically advanced world, black magic continues to cast a shadow. It preys on fear and desperation, exploiting human weaknesses. The challenge for modern believers is to strengthen their faith, seek knowledge, and rely on spiritual practices to guard against such harmful influences. After all, the light of truth is the only way to dispel the darkness of black magic. Black magic, or sihr, is one of the most destructive and harmful practices known in Islam. It involves using supernatural powers to cause harm, control, or manipulate people or events. However, Islam offers clear guidance on how to protect oneself from the evil effects of black magic. The Quran and Hadith provide numerous methods for spiritual defense, emphasizing faith in Allah, seeking refuge in Him, and using specific prayers and practices. Let's explore how one can protect themselves from black magic in Islam. 1. Strengthening faith and trust in Allah. The first and most important step in protecting oneself from black magic is to strengthen one's faith in Allah. Belief in the oneness of Allah and reliance on His protection are essential. When a person's heart is connected to Allah, they become spiritually resilient and less susceptible to negative influences, including black magic. Islam teaches that no harm can befall a believer unless Allah wills it, and He is the ultimate protector from all evils. Strengthening this trust makes a person more spiritually powerful and less vulnerable to the destructive effects of black magic. 2. Recitation of Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas. Two important chapters from the Quran, Surah Al-Falaq, chapter 113, and Surah An-Nas, chapter 114, are powerful protective prayers against black magic and other harmful forces. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, recommended reciting these surahs for protection against all types of evil, including black magic. Surah Al-Falaq seeks protection from the evil of the darkness when it spreads, from harmful practices, and from the jealousy of others. Surah An-Nas is a supplication for protection against the whisperings of evil forces and jinn, both of which are often linked to black magic. Reciting these surahs in the morning and evening, along with seeking refuge in Allah, can significantly reduce the influence of black magic and bring peace and safety to the believer. 3. Regularly reciting Ayat al-Kursi, Surah al-Baqarah 2, 255. Ayat al-Kursi is a powerful verse from Surah al-Baqarah that is often recited for protection from various harms. It emphasizes the greatness of Allah and His sovereignty over the heavens and the earth. According to Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that reciting Ayat al-Kursi after every prayer provides protection from evil forces and ensures that a person is safeguarded from black magic, jinn, and other harm. 4. Seeking Ruqyah, spiritual healing. Ruqyah refers to the Islamic practice of spiritual healing, often using Quranic verses, prayers, and supplications to protect oneself or cure illnesses caused by black magic or jinn possession. Specific verses of the Quran, like Surah al-Baqarah, are recited by a qualified Islamic healer or the individual themselves. The practice of Ruqyah can cleanse the person's soul, purify their heart, and expel the harmful effects of black magic. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used Ruqyah to cure his companions and himself when affected by negative energies. 5. Maintaining regular prayers and dhikr, remembrance of Allah. One of the key ways to protect oneself from black magic is by maintaining the 5 daily prayers, salah, and regularly engaging in dhikr, remembrance of Allah. Dhikr, such as reciting the names of Allah, provides spiritual strength and serves as a shield against negative influences. It is also mentioned in the Quran that the remembrance of Allah brings peace to the heart and strengthens a person against harm. By staying in constant communication with Allah through prayer and remembrance, the believer is less likely to be affected by black magic. 6. Avoiding the use of forbidden practices. To protect oneself from black magic, it is essential to avoid participating in or seeking out any forbidden or harmful practices. This includes seeking the help of soothsayers, fortune tellers, or individuals who claim to possess supernatural powers. Islam prohibits consulting such individuals as they rely on evil sources and manipulate the unaware. Seeking protection from black magic through these means only opens the door for more harm and invites more evil into one's life. 7. Maintaining a pure and clean lifestyle. A key preventative measure is to live a clean and pure lifestyle both physically and spiritually. Islam teaches its followers to maintain cleanliness, both in their bodies and homes, as impurity invites negative forces. Keeping the home free from idols, practicing regular ablution, and maintaining a clean environment ensures that one does not attract harmful energies. Additionally, being mindful of one's actions and intentions is equally important to avoid becoming vulnerable to black magic. Conclusion: black magic, as destructive as it may be, can be overcome by strengthening one's connection with Allah and following the teachings of Islam. Through regular prayers, remembrance of Allah, and the recitation of Quranic verses, a person can protect themselves from the harmful effects of black magic. Islam provides clear, powerful tools for spiritual protection, and it is through faith, trust, and the proper use of these tools that believers can safeguard themselves from the influence of evil. Keeping a strong relationship with Allah is the best defense against any form of harm, including black magic. When dealing with the concept of black magic, prevention is always better than cure. Islam has provided clear guidance on how believers can protect themselves from the harm caused by such evil practices. By taking the right precautions and following the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah, one can stay safeguarded from the influence of black magic. 1. Strengthening faith and trust in Allah. The most powerful protection comes from strengthening one's connection with Allah. A person who has firm belief in the oneness of Allah, Tawheed, and places complete trust in Him is already shielded. Black magic feeds on fear and doubt, thus, when one's heart is filled with faith and certainty, such evil practices lose their power. Allah reminds us in the Quran, greater than, indeed, those who fear Allah, when an impulse touches them from Satan, they remember Him and at once they have insight. Surah Al-A'raf, 201. 2. Reciting protective verses regularly. Islam offers specific prayers and verses that act as shields against black magic. These should be made part of daily routines. Surah al-Falaq 113 and Surah an-Nas 114, these are known as Muawwidatayn, the two chapters of refuge, revealed to seek Allah's protection against evil. Ayat al-Kursi, Surah al-Baqarah 255, reciting this verse after every prayer and before sleeping is a strong protection against any evil influence. Surah al-Baqarah, it is recommended to recite Surah al-Baqarah in the house, as black magic and devils cannot enter a place where it is recited. 3. Establishing a consistent prayer routine. Regularly performing the 5 daily prayers, Salah, acts as a constant shield. Salah keeps a person spiritually strong and connected to Allah. Those who abandon prayers become vulnerable to harmful forces. 4. Avoiding suspicious objects and practices. Precaution includes being aware of the surroundings. Individuals should avoid suspicious items placed at their home, business, or personal spaces, such as strange knots, animal bones, or unknown talismans. Black magic often involves physical objects used as conduits for harm. If such things are found, they should be destroyed while reciting Bismillah and other protective du'as. 5. Staying away from magicians and fortune tellers. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, strongly warned against visiting magicians, fortune tellers, or anyone claiming to have supernatural knowledge. Engaging with such people is forbidden in Islam, as it involves reliance on forces other than Allah. The Prophet Pbuh said, "Greater than, whoever goes to a fortune teller or soothsayer and believes what he says, has disbelieved in what was revealed to Muhammad." Musnad Ahmad. 6. Maintaining cleanliness and purity. Maintaining physical and spiritual purity keeps a person protected. Staying in a state of wudu, ablution, as much as possible, regularly performing ghusl, ritual bathing, and ensuring the home is clean and free of impurity are important steps. Darkness and evil thrive in unclean spaces. 7. Making regular du'as for protection. Believers are encouraged to make sincere du'as to seek Allah's refuge. Simple du'as such as, A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytanir rajim, I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed devil. Bismillahi alladhi la yadaru ma izmihi shay'an fil ardi wa la fiz samai wa huwa as-sami'ul alim, in the name of Allah, with whose name nothing can harm on earth or in the heavens, and he is the all-hearing, all-knowing. These du'as, if recited regularly, act as a spiritual barrier against harm. 8. Being cautious of jealousy and envy. Black magic is often associated with jealousy and envy. Islam warns against sharing personal blessings excessively, as it can lead to envy. The evil eye, nazar, is real, and one must recite verses like Surah al-Falaq and use du'as to protect themselves and their loved ones. Taking precautions against black magic involves spiritual practices, vigilance, and strong faith in Allah. By following these preventive measures, believers can safeguard themselves against harmful forces and live with peace and confidence. In the end, no harm can touch a person when they are under the protection of the Almighty. Belief in the unseen, including black magic, is part of our faith as Muslims. However, Islam provides clear and practical methods to combat its effects and restore spiritual and physical well-being. If someone suspects they are affected by black magic, taking the right steps is crucial, balancing faith, patience, and proper actions to find relief. 1. Strengthening faith and tawakkul, reliance on Allah. The first and most important step is turning to Allah with complete trust and reliance. Black magic may cause physical, emotional, or psychological harm, but it has no power unless Allah wills. This understanding empowers believers to face these challenges with patience and strength. As the Quran reminds us, and they cannot harm anyone except by Allah's permission. Surah al-Baqarah 102. By strengthening one's connection with Allah through sincere prayers, the impact of black magic can be significantly reduced. 2. Recitation of protective verses, Ruqya Sharia. The Quran is the ultimate source of healing, and specific verses can protect and cure those affected by black magic. These verses are part of Ruqya Sharia, which refers to lawful spiritual healing. Regular recitation of these verses can safeguard a person. Surah al-Fatiha, the opening. Ayat al-Kursi, Surah al-Baqarah, 255. The last 2 verses of Surah al-Baqarah. The 3 Quls, Surah al-Ikhlas, Surah al-Falaq, and Surah an-Nas. These surahs and ayahs should be recited daily, especially after Fajr and Maghrib prayers. They can also be blown onto water, which can then be consumed and sprinkled around the home. 3. Seeking help from trusted scholars. If symptoms persist, it is advisable to consult a trustworthy and qualified Islamic scholar or someone well-versed in Ruqya Sharia. It is essential to avoid fraudulent healers who might practice shirk, associating partners with Allah, or engage in prohibited rituals. A genuine healer will use the Quran, authentic supplications, and prayers as remedies rather than engaging in dubious practices. 4. Regular acts of worship and dhikr, remembrance of Allah. Staying consistent in acts of worship fortifies one's spiritual armor. Performing the 5 daily prayers, giving charity, sadaqah, and constantly engaging in dhikr provide protection and relief. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever regularly performs prayers will find that they are a source of peace and protection." Key supplications to recite include, A'udhu billahi min ash-shaitanir rajim, I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed devil. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil, Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. 5. Purifying the home and lifestyle. Sometimes, black magic is directed at a person's home or belongings. To counter this, one should cleanse their environment. Play Quranic recitations, like Surah Al-Baqarah, regularly in the home. Avoid keeping talismans, amulets, or items with unknown origins that might carry harmful influences. Make sincere dua to Allah to remove evil and protect one's household. Additionally, staying away from sinful habits and focusing on purity in actions and intentions strengthens one's spiritual defenses. 6. Practicing patience and avoiding fear. Black magic thrives on fear and despair. It is essential to remain calm and patient while seeking remedies. Excessive fear or panic can weaken a person's resolve and worsen the psychological impact. Always remember that Allah's mercy is greater than any harm. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. Surah Ash-Shah, 6. Combating black magic requires a blend of strong faith, reliance on Allah, and consistent spiritual practices. By following the teachings of Islam and avoiding fraudulent healers or shirk, one can find relief and protection. Black magic may seem daunting, but with trust in Allah and adherence to the Quran and Sunnah, no harm can overpower a believer's strength and faith. Black magic, though forbidden and condemned in most belief systems, has existed across civilizations, religions, and cultures for centuries. Despite its universal negative perception, the ways it is understood, practiced, and dealt with vary significantly. This comparative analysis highlights the views on black magic across major religions and cultures. 1. Islam, a strict prohibition. In Islam, black magic is seen as a grave sin and an act that leads to spiritual ruin. The Quran explicitly condemns sorcery and magic, mentioning the incident of Harut and Marut, the angels who warned people of its dangers, Surah Al-Baqarah 2, 102. Those who engage in black magic are considered to have committed shirk, associating partners with Allah, as they turn to jinn, evil forces, or Satan for help. Islam emphasizes seeking protection through faith, reciting verses like Ayat al-Kursi, Surah al-Falaq, and Surah an-Nas, while relying on the power of Allah alone. 2. Christianity, condemnation of witchcraft. Christianity also views black magic as evil and satanic. The Bible strongly forbids witchcraft, sorcery, and consulting spirits, as mentioned in Deuteronomy 18:10-12, where it declares that such practices are an abomination to the Lord. Throughout history, witch hunts and inquisitions were conducted to root out individuals accused of practicing magic. In Christianity, reliance on God and prayer is the solution to spiritual threats, including black magic. 3. Judaism, an unacceptable practice. In Judaism, black magic and witchcraft are prohibited under the Torah. The Jewish texts, especially the Talmud, discourage all forms of magic and occult practices. However, Judaism differentiates between white magic, often considered benign, and black magic, which is condemned. Practices like the Kabbalah, a mystical Jewish tradition, have often been misunderstood and misrepresented as forms of magic, but the core teachings emphasize spiritual closeness to God, not manipulation of supernatural forces. 4. Hinduism, dual perspectives. Hinduism presents a more complex view of magic. While the religion promotes spirituality, certain sects and individuals have engaged in occult practices known as Tantra, or Kala Jadoo, black magic. Black magic in Hindu culture is often associated with rituals meant to harm others, performed through curses, mantras, or the summoning of spirits. However, Hindu scriptures like the Vedas condemn such practices, advocating for karma and divine justice instead. 5. Indigenous beliefs and tribal cultures. Many indigenous tribes and ancient cultures have long practiced forms of magic, often tied to their understanding of nature, spirits, and ancestors. For example, African tribal traditions sometimes involve juju or voodoo practices, where spells are cast for harm or protection. Similarly, in Native American cultures, shamanic rituals were performed to heal or communicate with spirits. While some of these rituals were positive, the misuse of such practices often led to black magic-like consequences. 6. Modern secular cultures. In contemporary, secular societies, black magic is often viewed through a psychological or superstitious lens. Some regard it as a cultural myth or as symbolic of human fears, while others dismiss it entirely as superstition. However, even in modern cultures, occult practices like witchcraft, tarot reading, and energy work have gained popularity, often marketed as spiritual healing or alternative remedies. While black magic has existed across religions and cultures, it is almost universally condemned as dangerous and immoral. Religions like Islam, Christianity, and Judaism strongly forbid its practice and provide spiritual guidance for protection. Meanwhile, other traditions offer varying perspectives, often combining spirituality and mysticism. What remains clear is that black magic taps into humanity's fears and vulnerabilities, making faith, morality, and spiritual strength essential to overcoming its influence. The battle between good and evil is as old as humanity itself, and black magic remains a powerful representation of that struggle. It is a test of faith, resilience, and the human inclination toward light or darkness. Throughout history, black magic has plagued societies, preying on fear, jealousy, and ignorance. However, Islam provides a clear path to protect against such practices and overcome their influence with faith, patience, and reliance on Allah. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that evil cannot prevail over those who remain steadfast in their worship and seek refuge in Allah. Surahs like Al-Falaq and An-Nas are divine shields, emphasizing the importance of turning to Allah in times of distress. The power of black magic may seem daunting, but it is ultimately limited, as no harm can befall a person without the will of Allah. In modern times, as black magic continues to find new avenues, it is essential to remain vigilant and spiritually strong. Ignorance and superstition only deepen its grip, while knowledge of Islamic teachings equips believers to combat such evils. By seeking guidance from the Quran and Sunnah, one can rise above fear and fortify their heart against the shadows of black magic. The eternal struggle against evil is not one of despair but of hope and victory. With unwavering faith in Allah, no force of darkness, no matter how cunning or powerful, can overcome the light of truth. As believers, our role is to reject harmful practices, seek protection in the divine, and guide others toward understanding the mercy and power of Allah. In this way, the struggle transforms into a testament of faith, proving that the light of good will always overcome the darkness of evil.